Well, welcome back, y'all. So, I've been fighting issues, and I have a big issue now that's not related to the issues I was fighting. But, I've been going through things with this fuel cutting, and then I burnt out a O2 sensor, and luckily my buddy had one from a BMW that actually works the best out of any one I've used, and it has a really long lead on it. But that's a whole nother story of, what this video is about. So I'm about to get it set up on jack stands. So let me show you my latest and not so greatest mod that I did the old Miata Khalifa here. As you see, it's running fine, but my feet are out of the car. There's third gear. So I have two neutrals now, which sucks, but everything else works fine. I gotta move it up a little bit. See, it still moves. Put it about right there. But yeah, no clutch. Sucks. Is what it is though. So yeah, of course I got the great CD009, and the face of the gear with the engagement teeth on third and fourth are brazed on. For whatever reason, Nissan decided to do that, and I broke that weld. And I mean, just, you know, it's third gear. I'm not launching in third, it's just doing pulls, and it let go. So I'm about to pull it out and see how bad everything looks from me beating the tar out of this thing for the past 3 years. But I'm more than likely just gonna fix this. So I'm undecided on what route I'm gonna go. If I'm gonna like semi-build it or repair it or whatever I'm gonna do. But yep, I'm gonna get it out and see what we're working with here. Should be easier since we don't have exhaust going to the back. The only thing I am concerned about is the clearance on my my radiator lines, which I think it should be fine. I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. Lucky for me, I made sure to grind down a spot on the case so I could get to this one bolt that'll let me pull the transmission out without taking the bell off, which you got to pull the whole motor to get the bell out. So I got to get it up in there and just see what I'm working with. Well, getting it out doesn't look horrible. I've got 2 bolts at the top, which I can get to those with extensions. Hopefully it should be easy. We'll see. That one bolt right there, there's that little lip, the one at the top. I think I can get that out no problem. Hopefully I don't have to grind on that, because that'll kind of be a pain in the ass, but it's doable. Coolant lines aren't really in the way. It should slide back just fine. It's just getting it out from under the car is going to be a bitch. I might have to lift it up some more in the front. I don't know, those are pretty much maxed out in the back, so I don't want to go too high in the back. Pull the shifter and the trans mount, cross member, whatever you want to call it. Getting it in is going to be the hard part. I put this thing in by myself with that floor jack when I first built the car, and it took hours, and it was a pain in the ass. And I can't get the bell off, so I can't knock that clutch alignment out of place, because there's no way for me to take the clutch off without pulling a bell off and pulling the motor and all that. That's not happening. So this is gonna suck putting it back in. This is that's what I'm worried about. Getting it out is gonna be fine, but here we are doing Miata Khalifa things as always. But one day, hopefully, if I do have a shop, I won't ever take that for granted. So I'm gonna start doing all the little things to get it ready to pull, I guess. Man, this is what I'm talking about. As soon as I start doing shit, it's fucking sunny outside. Like, come on, dude. This is bullshit. Okay, well, the transmission's out. Thanks to Brandon. Brandon came through and helped me out. Brought this little trans jack and basically just helped me muscle it out. I couldn't do that by myself. So I got extra input just sitting in here. I just wanted to make sure that the clutch didn't move. So I'm gonna leave that in there just in case. But from the looks of it, See, I've never pulled the transmission off the bell housing. It looks like I would have no problem getting that bell housing off to get that clutch down if I had to, so that's a good thing. I'll come inside in a second, or I'll take you inside in a second and you can see the transmission. Real quick though, before we go inside, I just want to show you the fluid before I dispose of this in the most environmentally safe way possible. It don't look that bad. It's a little shimmery, but I've seen way worse, which that's to be expected, seeing that, you know, the rings on these transmissions kind of suck. It's probably some metal from that weld breaking loose on third, but yeah, it doesn't look horrible though. It looked a lot better when it was coming out. It was a lot clearer, but I'm gonna put new fluid in it anyway. Alright, well, it made it inside. So, if you don't know already, I actually do manual transmissions. It's been my profession for a handful of years now, so unfortunate for me that I lost third gear, but fortunate for me, I can fix it myself. So I'm gonna knock the cases off tonight and try to get the shafts out of the center plate. I don't believe my little press will be able to get the shafts apart, though. I'll probably have to go use somebody else's press for that. But I'm gonna go ahead and predict what's wrong with it right now. So I'm predicting that the faceplate on third gear, where the engagement teeth are, came apart from the actual gear. So I know that third and fourth, the plate is brazed onto it. For whatever reason, Nissan decided to do that. So that's definitely what happened. And the ring on reverse is going to be flat. I know that for sure. Teeth on second are going to be a bit worn. So it's going to need a third, a second, a 1-2 slider, and a 3-4 slider at the least. Well, in the reverse ring. Maybe a reverse gear and a slider. We'll see how it goes. But, yeah, that's my prediction of what we're about to find. It's not going to be a super detailed how to rebuild a CD009 deal. It's just going to be like, look what's wrong and I'm fixing it kind of deal. So let's get this thing apart. Alright, well, basically exactly what I expected. So you see how the engagement teeth on fourth gear right here are one with the gear. I'm grabbing the engagement teeth, not the actual gear teeth back here, and I can spin everything. So I go to third, and it just keeps spinning. So that's not supposed to happen. So you can see down in there, well, I done spun it from where it was, but hold on. There we go. Like that. So that's broke, which sucks. And from what I've researched, they braze the face with the engagement teeth to the face of the gear. I don't know why you would braze it. I think, what is it called? Like laser welding, something laser welding. That's the way to go. I can't remember the proper name for it. But otherwise, then my reverse ring is flat. I knew that because you can see it. It's supposed to have height to it because that's what stops the gear and slows it to the same speed of, you know what, I might as well just go through this and just explain what's going on. If you don't exactly know how a manual transmission works, I'll give you a quick rundown of it. So let me get this in position and we'll just go through it real fast. Okay, so very basic operations of a manual transmission. Obviously, your input shaft is going to be connected to your clutch, which this is what sends power through the transmission. So your input shaft is not connected to your main shaft. Your main shaft can also be called the output shaft. That's what it's called a lot of times. You see, I can spin that, and some of the gears are spinning, but you see the input is not spinning at the same time as the output shaft, or main shaft, as I like to call it a lot. So basically, this is an input from a different transmission, but you can see how basic same operations, it would not be connected to your main shaft. You have a pocket bearing that rides on the tip of the main shaft, but it's not actually connected to it. So the way the power flows through is your input is touching your counter shaft, is also called a cluster gear sometimes, and these are always touching. This is always turning. So when the motor is spinning, it'll be spinning your counter shaft at all times, but your output shaft stays still. So where the way the power transfers through to the other gears, so this one turns this gear, which turns all the other gears, until you lock the gear into place with your hub and slider, which altogether is called a synchronizer. So when you hear it needs synchros or whatever. So you have a synchronizer which consists of your hub that is connected to your main shaft, output shaft, with a slider on it, and then a synchronizing ring. And then you have the engagement teeth on the gear. So you have engagement teeth on the gear, and then you have the actual gear teeth. So your fork, let's see if I can shift this thing out real quick and show you if I can get it into, let me find out what gear I'm trying to go to. So say this gear right here, which would be second gear, if I can shift that over, now that is locked into second gear, and you can see my output shaft turns. So the basic workings of a synchronizing ring. So you have different types. You have single cone, double cone, triple cone. These are triple cone, but Nissan still doesn't design them that great, so they kind of suck. So all these gears are turning at different speeds. So to shift smoothly in synchronization, what this does is as this slider comes over, it grabs the synchronizing ring first, and it acts as like basically like the brakes on a car. And this is all connected to the gear with you have inner and outer cones and whatnot. Sometimes a single cone you'll just have the ring on there, but it'll come down and act as like a brake, and it'll slow the gear down to the same speed that your motor's turning, and it'll slow it down and match the speed, and your slider will come over and lock in, and you get a nice crisp smooth shift. So that's basically the gist of how it works. So on this transmission, and they're set up a lot different, a normal 5-speed, you would have all your gears on the main shaft. You would just have your solid mounted gears on your cluster shaft. Actually, I think I have another one over here. Like say this one, for example. So you don't have any moving gears on your cluster in a 5-speed. So you would have first, second, third, fourth, fifth will be your 1-to-1. And what that means, when this comes over and locks into fifth gear, it's basically just locking the input to the output shaft. And that's why they call it the 1-to-1 ratio, because it just moves the power straight through the shaft. But this one's a 6-speed, so in order to save space, they had to change things around a little bit. So you have your third and your fourth gear on the cluster, and these gears on the main shaft, they're pressed on, but they are fixed in place. So these two gears are basically like a counter gear, but it is on the main shaft. I know, a little bit confusing. So that's okay, so I'll just tell you the gears on this. So we got first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then sixth gear is back here. And then we get back to reverse, which I don't have together completely, but reverse. So you've got 3 gears that make reverse. So you can see that those 2 gears are not touching each other right now. Let me get a little bit more light in here. So these 2 gears do not touch each other. So what you would do to make reverse is you got this guy in here, which let me get it back together real quick. Let's put it together halfway. So you can see that my idler gear is what we call it. Reverse idler gear is going to touch this gear and this gear, but those 2 gears are not touching. So when I get locked into reverse here, if I can get in there, then you can see I'm spinning this way, which is spinning that gear, touching the opposing gear, and it's spinning this shaft the opposite way. So kind of tricky, but once you stare at it long enough and play with it, it starts to make sense. So that's the basics of a manual transmission. Obviously, there's a lot more to it when you get down to taking all this stuff apart and how the interlocks work. There's a lot of detents and balls and springs and stuff to make sure that you don't shift into 2 gears at the same time and lock your transmission up. And I guess you'd call it money shifting. A little different from when you money shift in a car, but it's definitely a money shift. But yeah, so that's the basics of it. That's probably as deep as I'm going to go into it on this video. If you want to know more about this stuff, let me know in the comments. I don't really do this kind of stuff on here because nobody really seems to like to watch more than like 10 or 15 minute long videos. But if you want to see me build some transmissions, let me know. I'll make some videos on this stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and get this thing apart as much as I can, and I'll let you know what else I find. Now's it look scary? Alright, well, I got it down to as far as I can go. I'm just gonna have to go. My buddy has a big press. I have to go to his shop and use it to get these shafts apart, but yeah, that's what I can do. You can really see it spinning on there now. But as you can see, that one's fixed in place. I just have to get it apart, and right now it's looking like I'm just gonna throw another third gear in there because apparently there's an upgrade for this. So I found this thread from 2009 where this guy had this company in Australia make an upgraded set of third and fourth gears for this transmission. So basically it'd be these 4 gears. And they were like, they weren't straight cut, but they weren't as helical. And they were beefier. And they looked a little bit more like the first and second gear, is what he said. Or, well, that's what it looks like in the pictures as well. But basically, they laser welded the whole thing together. And it was supposed to be a beefy deal. And it was like $600 for the set. And I was like, you know what? I'll hit him up. And so I emailed the guy. And he emailed me back yesterday. And he said he dug through the archives. And surprisingly, they actually have a set of those gears from 15 years ago in stock. But he said he wanted 1,800 Australian dollars, which converts over to like $1,200 USD. And that's honestly like $1,200 plus, like, if I do end up getting a set of Synchrotech carbon rings for this, which is like another 600 plus tax on shipping and all that stuff, it's like $2,000. I might as well start building a T56 for that money. So it's honestly kind of pointless. I would much rather have a T56 at the end of the day, so probably not going to go that route, which really sucks because the way it's looking, I'm just going to break this again. I mean, I'm only putting maybe like $650 down to the wheels, and that's just from rolls, man. Just rolling around on the street. That's how it broke. Hopefully it was a lot of things like me beating on the car for the past 3 years that added to it, and this was its breaking point. I don't know. Never can tell, really, but looks like that's the route that I'm going to go with this, is just kind of repair. I might throw the rings in it, though. We'll see, because, I mean, it's kind of what I have to work with for now. Okay, well, the shafts are apart, and I've come to realize some things. This isn't actually a CD009. So I did take this apart and put it back together, but that was years ago. I built the transmission before. I don't even think I had the Miata at that point. I like, this was one of the first things I did, and this was when I first started doing this. And I kind of found it and took it apart. It took me like the span of a month on my lunch breaks of taking apart and putting it together, but I didn't necessarily know what I was looking at the time. So they're not triple cone all the way first through third. It is on the 09, and then fourth is double cone, which what this is. So what I mean by double cone is you have 2 friction surfaces. So you got your friction material there, inner steel, and then you have your outer friction right there. So that makes it a double cone. Second gear is triple, which you have 1 inner steel, 2 friction surfaces, and 3 friction surfaces on this one, which your steel is made onto the gear here. So 1, that makes 2, and then the outer makes 3. Which I was under the impression that well, honestly, I thought it was all the way through fourth, but I looked it up, and I guess it is just first through third. Which I looked up a set of rings, and it had triple cone on fourth on the one they were selling, the carbon ring. So I'm still not 100% sure. The information that's out here for this stuff is like, there's so many opinions on it, and you'll look something up and it's different from the other thing you look up anyway. So I've got a double cone first, triple cone second, and then double cone third and fourth. Which, first gear doesn't matter. We got double on second. Fourth was working fine, but at this point, we definitely need a third. like I said, that's separated. So I don't even know how they do that, but it's brazed together, and you can see the material or whatever it is that they use to do it. That brass looking kind of color, and I really don't even know how they do it. That's kind of weird, but that's in pieces now. So from what I looked up, this is either a CD005 or a CD008. But the thing that throws me off the most is that the front retainer that came on this was internally slaved. So after 2007, they were internally slaved, which led me to believe that this was an '09. And I really didn't second guess it too much at the time. So that's got me thrown off. This should be an externally slaved transmission, which we don't have that part of the transmission anymore because I cut the bell housing off, and it uses an adapter plate for a T56 bell housing and slave cylinder. So, oh, and the VIN plate was also ripped off of it. That's the biggest way you can tell. You just look the VIN up and it tells you what car it came out of. But that was conveniently ripped off of this transmission. That's why I took it apart and still didn't identify it properly. But here we are. So that's broken, and it broke the hub for the 3.4 hub. So I need one of those, and I'm pretty sure I can just put the triple cone in on third, and I guess not fourth, because they don't have one for fourth, and everything else should work the same, which is kind of interesting how that works. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm about to go round up some parts. I'll probably throw a couple sliders in. I decided I'm not putting carbon rings in it. This isn't worth spending money on. The amount of money that I'll put into it, like, I can just put that save up and go put it towards a T56. I don't really see a point in doing that. So I'm going to fix it and put it back in. So I need to round some parts up now. Well, slight change of plans. Well, I went to my previous job to get parts, and unfortunately, they didn't have the third gear with the 3-piece synchro on it, or triple cone deal, whatever you want to call it. So, unfortunately, I had to get another third gear like I had, which it's basically going to be putting the same thing back in, which, you know, I don't know how much stronger the other gear would actually be, but kind of sucks putting it in. I'm going to be scared to really give it the beans, even though, you know, I'm going to do it anyways. But so I got that. I got a better ring for second gear and a ring for third, and our hub was broken too. So I had to get this whole assembly, third and fourth gear, to get the third gear and the hub, which kind of sucks. Now I got extra stuff I'm basically just going to throw away, but it is what it is. At least I got the stuff that I need, so I'm just going to put it back together like it was pretty much, and hopefully this one holds better than this one did. Yep. Hopefully it doesn't do that, so we get to getting these shafts together. Alright, well, shafts together, everything's together but the cases, so gonna clean the cases up, throw them on, and slap this thing in tomorrow. Hopefully, third gear lasts a while. I mean, like, I don't know. I really don't know how long it's going to last, because I could say it lasted like 3 years, but that was under 500 horsepower the whole time. Or, well, it was a little over 500, but you know what I mean. 657, whatever it's making. I have no clue what it's making, but it's around that. That didn't hold up too long, so we'll see how it goes. If I break it again, I'm just going to get another one of these to throw in. It's not worth wasting money on this again. And hopefully it just lasts until I get a T56. We'll see how that goes. Probably not. But one way or another, we're going to find out. And I'm still going to keep beating the ever-living fucking shit out of this thing. It's not like I'm going to stop. At least I know what I'm doing here. So, if it does break again, I'll just get another gear and fix it, and I'll probably sell this. Hopefully I have a T56 before then, but like the ideal thing would just to sell this and get money for it that way. You know, otherwise it's a fine transmission, fine working transmission instead of that deal. So we'll see how it goes. Throw the cases on. I'll give you a clip of that once that's together. Maybe talk about the adapter plate a little bit. And then throw it in the car. Alright, cases are on. I guess I'll talk about this adapter plate real quick before I put it on. So, let me get some more light. So, on the, obviously it looks like something's missing here. So, on the Nissan transmission, there's a couple different plates that you can get. You can get an adapter plate that bolts onto the front of the Nissan Bell and adapts it to a LS, but I got the one where you use basically adapter plate front is T56, so I use a T56 bell and slave cylinder. So you chop it off, pretty much. And so the front bearing retainer on these, as you can see the bolt holes on that, like that's really wide. I don't see hardly many transmissions at all that have that big of a front retainer, and it's 11 bolts. They're pretty decent size. I don't know whether it's like M8 or something like that. I think so. But it's enough to take the torque and spread the load. So what this does is this adapter plate becomes the front bearing retainer, and then you see where it's got the spot to bolt the T56 slave, and then you got these holes right here all the way around that go through that way that bolt to the T56 bell housing. So what I did last time I did the clutch in this, I ground this down because there was a spot that was covering one of the bolt holes. So I'm going to clean it up just a little more because I couldn't get my swivel in there. I got it out with a straight, luckily. This probably wouldn't have happened anytime soon if I couldn't have done that. But anyways, yeah, so then I could actually pulled it off of the bell housing this time, which was pretty cool. So if you do this, just be mindful of that. If you ever want to take your transmission out without taking your bell and all that. So in order for me to do that, well, otherwise I would have to pull the motor, which is not fun. If you're OG on the channel, you already know. So I'm going to throw the adapter plate on, and we're done for now. And tomorrow I'll throw this bad boy in, and we'll see how she does. And there you go. Time to throw that bad boy back in. Alright, well, transmission is back in. It's got fluid in it. And start it up. Let it run a little bit, run through the gears, and make sure nothing's leaking, which it shouldn't be. And hopefully we're good to go again for a while. We'll see. I didn't record putting it in because this video's become pretty long, but I got shifter in, clutch blade out, everything. Oh, let's start this thing. I haven't started in like a week. Third gear. Woo! Look at it. Fourth. That diff is so noisy. Sixth. So noisy. It sounds like something's falling, about to come apart. That's that Detroit locker back there. The thing is so noisy, it's stupid. Alright. I don't see any leaks. That's a good thing. Yeah, that diff is like crazy noisy. It sounds like something's coming apart, but it's alright. Alright, well, let's get this thing on the ground and go for a little ride. in third gear again, at least, you know? That's cool. I need to bleed my clutch some more. It's kind of light. It's disengaging really close to the floor. My shifter needs a little adjustment too. Everything kind of got out of whack from taking it all apart, but hey, it works again. It's ripping. Lives to rip one more day. So I'm not gonna record doing those little things. It's not really that big of a deal. But hey, I know this is kind of a long video. If you made it this far, drop a comment, let me know. You're a trooper. That was kind of a long video. But as always, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you in the next one. Later, y'all.